What's up, it's Austin Rutherford. So what makes a rental property a good deal? As you dive into this, you're gonna see a lot of numbers and it can be very overwhelming for some people. But by the end of this video, you're gonna be able to know exactly how to underwrite a rental property and know if it's a good deal or a bad deal. And since I'm gonna tell you exactly what I look for in rental properties, if you get one of these opportunities that cross your table, you can know that you can send it to me and I will 100% close on the property, and you and I can get a deal done together. So what is the most important thing? If you have any idea of real estate, what most people talk about is location, location, location. And that is an extremely important thing in real estate. It's one of the most important things. So what do I look for? So there's things called A, B, C, and D class areas. So A class areas are like the high rises, the super expensive, apartment buildings, whatever it looks like in your city, that's A class. D class is the places where you wouldn't be comfortable driving around at night, or you wouldn't want your husband or your wife driving around at night, right? So in between that is kind of the middle ground, right? So I personally buy an A- sometimes to C+ areas. I like the C+ and the B areas because what happens when you're in the A+, you get high appreciation but very small cash flow. When you're in the D areas, you get good cash flow but very little appreciation. If you're in the B and C class areas, you get a little bit of both. So you get future appreciation and you get current cash flows. So I like to buy in the A- to C+ types of areas. Along with location, part of that is determined based on growth in the area, right? Population growth within the area. So if you have a city and people are leaving the city more than people are moving to the city, you have a declining population. That's not a good place to own rental properties because sooner or later, there's not gonna be enough people there to fit the amount of rental properties, which then leads to pricing, which means you're gonna have to lower your price substantially month after month after month because other people are gonna be competing for less amounts of tenants. So simple supply and demand. The more demand there is, the more population, the higher you can charge. The less demand, the lower you're going to charge. So I am not buying rental properties in areas that have declining population growth. I want to be buying rental properties in areas where significantly more people are moving to than moving out of. I want population growth that is going up every single month, every single year, because that leads to higher rents. And the last part of location is economic growth. Are there jobs in the city, right? So mostly the only reason people live within a city is because they can make a good living within that city. So if there's no jobs or no way for people to make money in the city, again, you're facing a very difficult problem that you're probably never going to get past because more people are going to be leaving because they have to go somewhere to make money if they cannot make money in that city. So I'm looking at the economies of the city as well. Are businesses moving there? Is there one warehouse that supplies all the jobs in the city? And if that warehouse goes down, is the city done, right? I want competition. I want multiple employers within an area. So if one goes down or one moves or whatever it is, it doesn't disrupt the entire market. So I want to make sure that more businesses are moving into the area than leaving the area, and it's diversified. There's not just one business, there's multiple businesses, right? So you gotta look at the economics as well and make sure that those are growing, and all of those come down to location, location, location. And to find out a little bit more about those things, you can just Google your city, Google your city population growth, Google your city job growth, and then just start reading articles about it. If there's not many articles, kind of take the hint there. If there's a lot of articles, this probably means it's a very booming and growing city and probably somewhere that you want to own rental properties at. And the second thing that I look for is appreciation, right? So when I own a property today, I want it to be worth more in the future. And this kind of ties a little bit into number one, location, location, location on population growth and job growth. Because the more people moving into an area, the fewer houses are available, supply and demand, properties are going to go up in value. Usually it appreciates anywhere from 2 to 3% a year, but over the last couple of years, it's appreciated significantly higher than that if you're in an area where there's population growth. So that is very, very important. Some people have a strictly cash flow play. Some people have a cash flow and appreciation play. I like both. So if I own a property today for 100 grand, 10 years from now, I want it to be worth 120 or $150,000, right? So I'm looking at the appreciation as well. Now I am not buying this property based on the appreciation only, right? I still need cash flow. But if you're looking at the appreciation, the house values are not selling anything different than what it was 5 years ago, you have a problem. Or let's say houses are selling for less every year, you have a serious problem now. So what you can do is you can go back and you can look at the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years of sales in a neighborhood, and in that neighborhood, see if the prices have gone up every single year. If they've gone down, again, you have a problem. But if houses were selling for 100, now they're selling for 120, it's a great problem to have, because just owning that property, you make $20,000 if you were to sell that property. So appreciation, which really all it is growth within a market, is what you need to be looking for as well. And the beautiful thing, if number one, population growth and job growth, and number two, appreciation is there, rents will go up in value as well. So you'll be able to charge more money, which means you'll make more passive income every single month. Number three, the fun part, the numbers. I don't even get to the numbers if it doesn't pass number one and number two. So if I get a 50, 100 unit apartment complex sent to me, first thing I'm looking at is the area. Is it a big city or a small city? Is it growing or declining? And then I'll look at the numbers, because a lot of times, a lot of the opportunities that come are in these podunk towns that nobody ever wants to be in, and that the population growth is going down, right? So if it doesn't get past number one and two, we never get to number three, which is the numbers. But if we do get to the numbers, there's two ways to really understand deals, right? One is buying a property turnkey, which means that you're buying a property today that's fully renovated, that's maximized rent, and that's cash flowing day one or within 30 days. That's buying a property turnkey. Or you can buy a property using the BRRRR method, where you have to buy, renovate, rent, and refinance the property. You have to stabilize the property. It's undervalued, it needs work, it's under rented, whatever it is. There's work that you have to do to get the property up to today's value, which means you can build equity within the deal using the BRRRR method. So those are the two ways that you can buy houses. But for this video, we're going to be talking about the stabilization, the BRRRR method, not the turnkey method, because I don't like putting my own money into deals, which you have to put a 25% down payment. So if you buy a $200,000 house, you got to put $50,000 of your money into this. I don't like doing that. I like getting houses for free, which is the BRRRR method, which is what we're going to be talking about. So 1 to 4 family properties. Personally, I'm buying these in and around Columbus, Ohio. So if you have any deals in or around Columbus, Ohio, send them to me. If it fits this criteria, I'm buying it 100% of the time. If it's in a different area, you got to listen to these numbers to make sure that for you, it's a good rental property, right? We'll get into apartment complexes next, which I'll buy anywhere in the country, but 1 to 4 family properties, we're buying in Columbus, Ohio, or around Columbus, Ohio. And you got to make sure, our goal is once you buy them and renovate them, we're all in for less than 75 to 80% of the ARV, the after repaired value. So all in means our purchase price, our renovation costs, our closing costs, our holding costs, our utility fees, our insurance, our taxes, our interest to our lender, all in for, with all expenses, for less than 75 to 80% of the after repaired value. That way, when we go to refinance this deal with the bank and they give us a 75 to 80% cash out refinance, we get this property for free. So if we're all in for 75% with other people's money, the bank refinances us out 75%, we pay off all of our debt, and now we have a bank loan that we make payments on every single month from the rent that the tenants pay us. The second thing that we look at is cash flow. Some people look at something called cash on cash return, which basically means the amount of money that they have in the deal, they want to make a cash on cash return on top of that. The thing with that, in my opinion, is with using the BRRRR method, we don't use any of our own money. So it's an infinite return because it's not our money in the first place. Cash on cash to me goes for buying something turnkey. Put $50,000 down as a down payment. How quickly are you getting that money back? That's what a cash on cash return is. For us, I don't even really look at the cash on cash because it's not our money in the first place. But there's 2 other numbers that I look at. 1 is cap rate, and 2 is the debt service coverage ratio. So what is cap rate? Cap rate is the NOI, the net operating income, divided by the property value. So this is after your expenses, your vacancies, your repairs, your property management expenses, all those things is your net operating income divided by the value of the property. So with the cap rate, I'm looking for anywhere from like a 6.5% to like a 10%, which is a phenomenal return, because that way I know that this property is still going to cash flow positively, which means I'm going to make money every single month. And then the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio. So this is another way to evaluate rentals to make sure that they positively cash flow. So what is the debt service coverage ratio? It's the net operating income divided by the debt service, which means the money that you have to pay the bank every single month once the property is stabilized or refinanced, that you got to pay them every single month. So you want to make sure that you have enough money coming in to pay for your monthly mortgage expenses. So normally a bank will not refinance a property, will not put a loan on a property if it doesn't have like a 1.2 to a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. So for me, I'm looking to make sure that our properties have at least a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. So it actually cash flows, and I can get it financed by the bank. So to find the cap rate in the DSCR, you're gonna have to know some numbers that you have to base it on. So what do I use? Property management, we have an 8% expense ratio. For vacancies, we have an 8% expense ratio. And in my opinion, this is a little bit high, but we run it at 8%. For repairs, we have a 5% expense ratio, because you got to remember, we just renovated these properties, so hopefully the expenses, the repairs are not going to be as much because it's newly renovated. So we have 5% for that. We use a 25-year amortization schedule, so that tells us how much we have to pay every single month on our mortgage, and we're using about a 4.25% interest rate to calculate what our mortgage payment is. So when buying 1 to 4 family buildings, those are the numbers that I look at. And if it fits those numbers, I'm buying the deal 100% of the time. If I can get all into it for all in for less than 75 to 80% of the value, which means I get a free house, I'm buying it. If it cash flows, if it has a cap rate or a DSCR of what I'm looking for, and it cash flows, I can get a free house and make money every month, I'm in. So that's how we evaluate 1 to 4 family buildings. Now let's look at how we value apartment buildings. And it's kind of the same process, honestly. And I would buy these properties anywhere in the Midwest or the Southeast or another market where I knew boots on the ground. I knew somebody that knew the market very, very well, because I don't know every market in the country, right? There's people in certain markets that know certain markets that can understand the job growth, the population growth. Is the area appreciating in value? Is it a war zone? So I need somebody to know those things in other areas, but I would definitely be buying properties, apartment buildings, anywhere in the Midwest or the Southeast right now. And like I said, it's basically the same numbers. We're looking to be all into this deal for 75% of the ARV, the after repaired value. It's based on a cap rate and a DSCR, debt service coverage ratio. And if it fits those numbers, again, I'm buying the deal. If you can get a free apartment building that positively cash flows, I'm buying it 100% of the time. But you gotta understand, the bigger the deal goes, 1 to 4 family is pretty simple. You get a 50 unit or a 100 unit or a 200 unit apartment building, there's a lot of other variables within that. You have different types of expenses, you have different type of lease ups, you have different type of hold times, you have income on some rentals and vacancies on other rentals as you're turning the units to get them stabilized, to then get to the after repaired value to refinance it with the bank. You may have to give some equity to some partners to maybe raise some money or run the construction or manage the property or whatever it is. But all of that stuff can be figured out if it has the right cap rate or the right DSCR. But for either of these examples, the big takeaway here is that these properties need work. They need to be undervalued because they need a lot of renovation work, or they're significantly under rented to where they should be for the market. Those are the only 2 ways that this method, the BRRRR method, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat, or it's also called syndication for apartment buildings. It's the same thing. That's the only way that these deals work, is if they need work. If the deals need work and you can force appreciation within the properties. The only other way is buying deals turnkey, where you have to put a 25% down payment. So if you go out there, you buy $1 million building, you have to put $250,000 of your money as a down payment on the deal. I don't want to do that. I'd rather get free houses or apartment buildings. So if you get any deals like the above that we just discussed, send them to me. Let's do a deal together. Let's partner on a deal. I would love to work with you. And the other amazing thing, as you start getting more and more into real estate, realtors usually make about 3% of the deal. If they're lucky enough to represent both the buyer and the seller, they might make 5 or 6% on the deal. The cool thing in real estate, maybe if you're a wholesaler or a bird dog or a JV partner or whatever it is, there is no cap to how much you can make. They're capped at 3 or 5 or 6%. You can make 5, 10, 20, 50% on a deal if the deal is good enough. If you find a deal at 60% all in, and I'm buying at 75% all in, you'll be able to make 15% on that deal. So as long as it hits my numbers, I do not care how much somebody else gets paid. I will pay them as much as possible to give them a lot of money to bring me an amazing deal that still hits my numbers. So let's get some deals done together. Comment below, let me know what questions you have. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can get all this content going forward. As always, appreciate you being here. Peace.